The first step in building this vanity is to create some panels. I'm cutting wood to the length that I need for the glue-ups. The type of wood I'm using here is walnut and padauk. Here I'm gluing a second panel, and this is walnut and ash. Here I'm using a hand plane to get the board as flat as possible. Next, I'm going to glue up another 2 panels exactly the same. These 2 panels will help in creating the legs. The next thing I'm going to do is cut a circle in this plywood. This is the size of the vanity top. With this circle, I will create a form to help me with steam bending later in the video. Here I am cutting a second circle. Then a third circle. And finally a fourth, smaller circle. Then a little bit more flattening. Next, I had to draw to scale the design that I needed for the vanity top. Then after cutting it out, I attached it to what was going to be the lid with double-sided tape. The next step is to cut it out using the bandsaw. It's very helpful to make relief cuts when you're making really sharp turns on the bandsaw. I cut as close to the line as I possibly could without going over the line, because then I was able to take it over to my spindle sander and sand out the remaining material. The next step was very carefully aligning the lid with the top and then tracing out the shape. Then using a jigsaw to cut out that inner shape. You have to be very careful with the jigsaw because you can get a lot of blade deflection, which will create an uneven cut. And again, going as close as I could to the line without going over, because here I can take it to the spindle sander and sand out the remaining material. And here's a rough fit. It seems to fit pretty well. The next step is working on the legs. Here I'm using my crosscut sled to cut them to the correct height. I set my table saw blade at 88.3 degrees. Then I cut the legs into 1-inch strips. I figured this out through trial and error, but when gluing the strips back together, I would get a gentle curve in the legs. I had to do the glue ups in small sections. Then I had to get creative in gluing the sections together. After gluing all my 1-inch strips back together, you can see I did get a curved leg. Then I had to take them to the crosscut sled and trim them. I was ready for the steam bending, so here I'm measuring the length around the vanity top. Then using the tape, I was able to measure the length of wood that I needed. I had to steam the wood for 1 hour at 210 degrees. While waiting on my wood to steam, I created a framework for the vanity bottom and the vanity top. After taking the wood out of the steamer, you have to work very quickly before the wood cools down too much. I have never steam bent wood, and I actually broke the first piece that I attempted this with, so this is the second piece. Here I'm getting ready to glue my bent piece around my framework. You can't really tell, but I'm applying glue here. I think I used every clamp that I own. Using a block plane, I trim the top of the curved wooden piece to be flush. Then I have to cut a small piece of walnut to plug this gap. Despite my best attempts, the curvature on the legs does not match the curvature of the vanity. So I have to figure out a way to fix this. My solution is to create a small router sled and route a channel into the legs that will match the curve of the vanity. I honestly didn't know how well this was going to work, and after all the effort I had put into creating the legs, this was a pretty scary step. But in the end, it worked out very well. Here I put a 1/4 inch round over on the vanity top. I also did this on the edge of the legs. Then I created these scallops using the spindle sander. Next, I sanded all of the components down, starting at 120, then going to 180, and then 220. I had to get very creative in gluing the legs on. Then I glued some stops for the lid. Then created a knob out of walnut using my bandsaw and spindle sander. Then I added some small walnut trim pieces. I used a Miles Craft jig to install the hidden hinges. You can use a door template to get the proper fit. Here, it's a little too tall, so I had to carve out some relief cuts underneath the hinges. Before applying a finish, I wipe everything down with mineral spirits. Then I use a hard wax finish. There are many videos online on how to apply these finishes. You can just search Rubio Monocoat and get lots of videos on how to apply this. The only thing left to do is to install the mirror.